Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Finance Zone. It's hard not to be awed by what Mark Zuckerberg has created. An effort launched from his college dorm is now a species-level phenomenon. A Facebook is a student directory featuring photos and personal information. In 2003, Harvard had only a paper version along with the private online directories. Facebook was a late comer to the social networking market, defying the business mantra of first mover advantage. Why did it succeed so fabulously, where the pioneers of the industry, already with millions of participants, have failed so spectacularly? Today, we're going to be talking about the rise of Facebook, how Facebook grew its billion-dollar empire. Make sure you stay, as you don't want to miss out on this valuable information. Also, remember to subscribe and click on the notification bell. On April 15th, 1999, LiveJournal was launched by 19-year-old Brad Fitzpatrick as a way of keeping in touch with his high school friends. LiveJournal started as a blogging site that incorporated social networking features inspired by the Well. In 2005, when it had 5.5 million users and was, quote, one of the largest open source projects on the web, end quote, it was sold to blogging software company 6 Apart. In 2007, when LiveJournal had 14 million users, it was sold to Russian media company SUP Media, who wanted to make it a, quote, major worldwide brand, end quote. In 2012, LiveJournal had close to 2 million active users. There were many other early movers around the world, but the two prominent ones, and for a while very successful, were Friendster and MySpace. Quote, one of the biggest disappointments in internet history, end quote, Friendster was launched in 2002 and reached 3 million users in a few months. It was sold in 2009 to one of Asia's largest internet companies, MOL Global, reaching at its peak 115 million users, mostly in Asia. Friendster was shut down in 2015. Quote, many early adopters left Friendster because of the combination of technical difficulties, social collisions, and a rupture of trust between users and the site, end quote, said Danah Boyd at the time. The major beneficiary of these defections were MySpace, launched in 2003. The rise of Facebook. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg looked like a social media pioneer from the start. Consider this. During the weeks he spent working on Facebook as a Harvard sophomore, he didn't have time to study for a course he was taking, Art in the Time of Augustus. So he built a website containing all of the artwork in class and pinged his classmates to contribute to a communal study guide. Within hours, the wisdom of crowds produced a sort of custom cliff notes for the course, and, after reviewing the web-based crib sheet, he aced the test. Turns out, he didn't need to take the exam anyway. The world's greatest. Facebook shares are on a tear after the company launched a new Instagram feature that will compete with TikTok in the United States. The move propelled Zuckerberg's personal net worth over $100 million for the first time. In December 2009, Facebook hit a major milestone: 350 million registered users and 132 million unique monthly users. It becomes the most popular social media platform in the world. Of course, the company wasn't planning to leave it at that. The following year saw lots more tweaking and changes, such as the ability to like comments and improvements to photo tagging. July saw the number of registered users hit 500 million, while the end of the year saw a big valuation of the company. In November 2010, Facebook was valued at a massive $41 billion. Meanwhile, it became the third largest web company in the US, sitting behind Google and Amazon. All of this is being achieved in under 5 years with no sign of progress slowing. Another huge milestone was reached the following year. June 2011 saw Facebook reach 1 trillion page views, according to a study by Double. And then, for the year overall, Nielsen found the site was the second most visited in the United States. August also saw the release of Facebook Messenger as a standalone app. This came after the company acquired Beluga, a group messaging service, back in March. Facebook had now become a huge name, a globally used website, and at the head of the social media revolution. Not too shabby from someone who was still in school just a few years prior. Buy, and sell. Now we reach 2012, which is probably one of the most important years in Facebook's, admittedly short, history. In April, we see Facebook make a major acquisition: Instagram. Spending $1 billion, we get an idea of the kind of resources the platform now has at its disposal. This was just a month before the year's big event, the IPO. Come May, and Zuckerberg was finally ready to take Facebook public. The company was valued at $104 billion and $38 a share. When all was said and done, the IPO raised a huge $161 million. But there was trouble ahead. The IPO was dogged with accusations of improper behavior by underwriters and technical issues, while Facebook lost a quarter of its stock value in the process. All by the end of the same month, The IPO was declared a fiasco by the Wall Street Journal. By June 6th, investors had collectively lost $40 billion. Over 40 lawsuits relating to the IPO were then filed. It was suggested that the underwriters, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, and Goldman Sachs, may have acted inappropriately. There were reports that they secretly cut revenue estimates mid-IPO. While there have been accusations, information was fed to the underwriters from Facebook that led them to cash out, joining the big leagues and drowning in hate. In 2013, a year on from the IPO, and despite all the troubles it's brought, Facebook joined the Fortune 500 at number 462. There was now no doubting the company was a major institution, especially as its global reach increased. But now its popularity caused problems. A platform open to everyone is on the surface a wonderful idea. Unfortunately, everyone involves a lot of awful people who like nothing more than using the internet to as large an audience as possible. Facebook had gained a major abuse and hate speech problem and seemed ill-equipped to deal with it. A review and update of the guidelines used to evaluate reports of hate speech, update the training for teams responsible for these evaluations, increased accountability for creators of, quote, cruel and insensitive content making, meaning they must reveal their true identity, increased communication with groups already working against the hate speech. A decade of Facebook. February 2014 saw Facebook's 10-year anniversary. An incredible amount has been achieved since the dorm rooms of Harvard. So what was next? First up were strong mobile figures. Facebook had been a proponent of a good mobile experience for a long time. This paid off with the first 3 months of the year seeing 1 billion users log into the platform using a mobile device. We also saw another major acquisition. In February 2014, Facebook announced they'd be buying WhatsApp for an incredible $19 billion. While Facebook already had a messaging system, this acquisition gave the access to WhatsApp's younger user base and their overseas users. And the following month, there was another major buy. This time, the virtual reality company Oculus VR. In a post from Zuckerberg, he said the Oculus VR headset would, quote, enable even more useful, entertaining, and personal experiences, end quote. April saw another big change. Despite owning a technically competing app, Facebook decided to remove Messenger from the main app and make it its own application. This means people who have downloaded it separately to use it. As of April 2017, Messenger boasts 1.2 billion active users. Meanwhile, Facebook's market capitalization was growing, reaching $200 billion by September and showing the company was still moving forward financially. Cleaning up the timeline. The year started off with some more strong financial news. Facebook announced that in Q4 2017, they'd seen profits of $701 million, a 34% increase year on year. So with the money flowing and acquisitions opening new horizons, things were looking good, except from something dark and horrible appearing in the distance. Before fake news was a common term, it was still an issue. Social platforms, including Facebook, were being flooded with fake news stories and false information on any and all subjects. These were written by sites trying to drive traffic for ad revenue, or to exact some kind of political aim. Either way, the truth was not central to their plans. This was an issue for Facebook, who have gone on and on about how many people use their site regularly. Now that just advertised millions of people were being exposed to lies on their platform, they decided they had to do something. In January 2015, they announced a new feature allowing users to flag an article as a false news story. If this happened enough, a note would be addressed for other users saying their article had been flagged as fake, while their algorithm would also factor in reports. As we all know, this didn't exactly work and fake news stories just became fake news as an entire concept. But it wouldn't be the last attempt from Facebook to tackle the problem. A more positive development was the release of Facebook Reactions. This meant we could now do more than just like a post, letting us add love, hate, haha, disgust, sad, or wow reactions as well. By no means a major update, it showed how Facebook were still looking at some of their original functions for improvement. Then in May, Facebook began to roll out instant articles. These meant publishers could set up versions of their articles that would be hosted directly to Facebook. Loading speeds would be cut dramatically, while the publishers could get revenues through advertising. There were a few other notable releases in 2015, including video calling in Messenger, the release of Facebook Live to verified public figures, and 360 video. Cleaning up the timeline, Part 2. In 2016, as the issue of false news stories and hoaxes rumbled on, Facebook announced they now had 1.5 billion daily users, 3 million advertisers, and made $3.69 billion in profit in 2015. Very strong numbers, impossible to argue with. So people took to arguing on their timelines instead. In June, we saw Facebook make a change to its algorithm in one of the first steps that would hit publishers and companies' organic traffic from the site. They announced that posts from your friends and families would take precedence in your feed. Great for family holiday photos, not so good for news outlets. But then in August, Facebook threw publishers a bone in the form of another algorithm change. Now the platform would judge which stories were informative and then put them in front of people where the piece aligned with their interests. Although, for those producing high-quality journalism, they must have been frustrated that made-up news was still getting so much traction. Thanks for watching. While you're here, go ahead and click one of these 2 videos on your screen. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. See you there, and thank you for watching.